Hi, it's Dr. Betty Robin with the Dentistry Rising podcast. You might know me as a dental practice sale broker from Orange County, California. I am a dentist as well as an attorney and broker, and it's my goal at this point to help you get where you want to go with your practices, to help inspire you, lead you in the right direction, and motivate you. So, happy listening. I was looking at some recipes the other day, thought I actually might try some cooking, and there was a food pyramid in an ad on the recipe site. Wow, that has changed. Dairy's not in vogue, meat's not in fashion unless you're keto, and gluten-free is the lifestyle for many. Then I was thinking about dental practices. To be healthy, dental practices need to have sort of a pyramid as well. Otherwise, they are off balance and never quite right, just as our bodies are if we don't eat right. It's really important to know and understand what is on the top of the pyramid. In dental practices, this is actually more of a triangle. Obviously, this is a loose reference at best, but if your pyramid looks more like a square or a rectangle or even a circle with no clear sides, you've got problems, to say the least. At the top of the pyramid and what the sides are holding up is profitability. I know I beat this term like a dead horse, but it just can't be overstated. Profitability means making money. Making money or profitability is always at the top of the dental pyramid. A practice that doesn't make money can hardly be described as a business at all. Even according to the IRS, a business has to make money to be a business. Otherwise, it's a hobby and you don't get all those delicious write-offs you want. Let's talk a little bit more about profitability and what I mean by it. Okay, I'm not talking about how much you produce, but that's certainly a beginning. Obviously, production needs to be there because without production, there can be no profit. So first, yes, you do need to produce, but that's not the whole story. Sometimes sellers call me and tell me what fabulous numbers they produced. My next question always is, what did you collect? More specifically, what is that gross income number on your tax return? And then sometimes I get a lot of stories. You know, they pocket the cash, they da-da-da. So what you can collect and what you report can be very different numbers, although they shouldn't be. But if you're pocketing cash, they will be different. And I always say, you don't get it twice. You don't get to not pay taxes and then get full value for your collection on your sale. But as you know, collections take in consideration a lot of things, like what insurance paid, how much was written off, what patients paid or didn't pay, whether you collect copays or deductible, and your general collection policy. The ratio between production and collections actually tells you an awful lot about a practice. So collections is what you actually got from what you produced. I mean, it costs money to produce dentistry. Money in terms of employee costs, supplies, lab bills, and just plain space in your time. You generally want to collect most of what you produced, or what's the point? Practices where production is approximately equal to collections are usually the most financially healthy practices. Okay, so before I get a lot of DMs, I know there are exceptions when you have a totally different practice model, like an HMO model or a Denti-Cal practice model. I absolutely do think those practices can be very profitable. But the problem is most dentists do not totally commit to that kind of model, which I think is absolutely required for them to make sense. Lots of dentists take some HMOs and some Denti-Cal, and then they run the practice as though it is a PPO, and that rarely makes sense. Okay, I got off subject a little bit. So now you're producing and you're collecting, but here is where the rubber really meets the road. It all has to all come out of the wash as profit. Profit. Profit is money you take home, money in your pocket, money you can pay your kids' tuition with, pay your mortgage with, go on vacation, or do whatever you want to do with it. That is the only kind of money that really matters. Buyers get really off base about this. I mean, that is the most important thing. How much money does the practice actually make at the end of the day? I mean, that is the question and the only question where you should start, in my opinion. So if you produce well and even collect well but have no profit, again, what's the point? I mean, really, what's the point? You can start looking at expenses, and if they're too high, that's obviously a problem. Okay, so let's move on to the sides of the pyramid or triangle. The dental pyramid really should be an isosceles triangle. Remember those kind of triangles where two legs are longer than the base? So one leg supporting the top, and the top again is the profitability. One leg is the employee costs. The second leg, in this example, are the lease costs. If both legs are balanced and appropriate, then the top layer, the profitability, will be held up just fine. Other costs can often be modified if they need to be. For example, as a buyer, I wouldn't worry too much about a seller paying too much for supplies. That's easy to fix. You negotiate rates, you change companies, you do what you have to do to get those expenses in line. Okay, so let's talk about the first leg, employee costs. Employee costs are every practice's largest expense, so you need to pay attention to this. People ask me all the time, how much should I pay for a front desk person or an experienced RDA? How should I know? My first question to that person would be, what is your target employee cost percentage? That is, what is the percentage that you want your employee cost to be of your total collections? All of you must have and must set a target employee cost percentage. A total that you want your employee cost to be, again, of your collections. And then if you have a larger office, you want to break that number down by department, like front desk, hygiene, assistants, however you want to break it down. And from those numbers, all answers flow. You will never have to guess again. So if your goal is, say, 25% of your collections go to employee costs, which I think is a nice and appropriate goal. Might be a little hard to achieve, but it shouldn't be too much harder. But once you know that number, again, you know exactly how much you can afford to pay in each job department or job position. Now, I don't care, and no one else does either, if you pay one person in the front desk $45 an hour, or you have 3 people making $15 an hour, or any combination in between. As long as you stick within your target percentage, all is good. I mean, some practices have an MBA at their front desk, which can work really well. And some have 3 people filling that job. All 3 are in training. Whatever works for you. But I would stay always within your predetermined employee percentage. And that doesn't mean you can get there overnight, but I think you need to closely analyze it and have a goal. The only thing I'd say about paying somebody a high salary is that model rarely works unless you have a high fee, almost pure cash practice, because employees don't have enough time to do everything that needs to be done if you have a lot of in and out traffic. And I don't think it's ever okay to accept a front desk employee doing part of the job. And part of the job can mean they're not entering full data, not entering treatment plans, etc., into your computer system. So, I mean, again, that will work if you do have a high fee, pure cash practice. So once you know your target employee percentage or have a plan to get it in line, you're in really good shape for holding up that top layer of profitability. Now, if you're considering buying a practice, I would spend a lot of time looking at employee costs. If someone is leaving, then you can obviously subtract that cost. But figure out if you need to hire someone else in that position, or if you can hire someone at a lesser salary and add back what that cost would be. So employee costs are somewhat adjustable, not hugely, but, maybe within 5%. I don't know. It depends on the situation. But the cost of the second leg, the lease, second leg of the triangle are not adjustable once you've signed the lease. So the second leg, as I said, of this isosceles triangle example is the lease costs. Lease costs are very important and include everything associated with the lease. The common area maintenance charges, parking, any additional lease charges. And in just about every single case, lease costs escalate yearly, usually between 3 and 4%. Yep, every single year, they go up like clockwork without fail. Before we go any further, I think it's obvious that if you have the opportunity to buy the building along with the practice and it works financially, go for it. That can be a lot more rare in Orange County and LA County. Other parts of California and the United States, I think a lot more common. So what do I mean it works financially? This is what I think. It means that if you amortize the cost of the mortgage, whatever you'd be financing, and spread it out over 25 years, which is the most common, or 30 years, and it's approximately equal to the current rent, you should be good to go. If not, analyze when it will be approximately equal. And if that's relatively soon, you're probably still fine because you're going to stop that continual escalation. Okay, so when all parts of this triangle or pyramid are balanced and in line, you generally have a great practice that's profitable and makes sense. A practice that pays off for you year over year, allows you to do the dentistry you love and maintain the lifestyle you want. I mean, really, isn't that what it's all about? And icing on the cake, you can easily sell it when the time comes. Thanks for listening today. Dr. Betty Robin. Please subscribe on iTunes so we can get better and better at helping you make your practice dreams come true.